No, I can do that real quick. Basically, the first thing on the funding, what I'd like us to look at is, currently we have a contract where they get a fixed rate, and I know it's supposed to be $1 million with an escalation every year. They've been taking 800,000, but I think it would behoove us to look at more of a budget style deal where they submit a budget each year, as all the departments do, and let us take a look at it and approve the budget on a case by case basis. I've heard some arguments that, well, you know, they have this comes up or that comes up, but we make budget adjustments all the time for different departments. You know, we go in and they come in and say, we need more money for this, or A, or B, or C, and then we vote and make an adjustment. I just think that this contract situation, and what spurred me to this was the last meeting I went to where they had a $374,000 surplus from last year's money. It bothered me a little bit that, you know, here we are struggling with different things here in the county in terms of costs and everything else and budgets. And yet EDA had billed, according to Chuck Scragg, roughly $1 million in surplus. Not that I have a problem, I mean, the money's sitting there, but it is tax dollars. And each year we keep dumping another $800,000 in. Where does that stop, you know? So my concern is, and I was about to say one thing up at the airport at some point, is they start building reserves. That money, I think, should come back into the county coffers, just for the simple fact that we're struggling with issues and we have to pay for things. So instead of letting it sit there fallow, generating a little bit of interest, that we should do this on a yearly basis like every other department. And I think that would show the taxpayers that we're being responsible for their money, and it's not just a block sum of money that just hits their bank account every year, and they need to justify to us what they're doing with it. Because as we all know, we haven't seen a whole lot of activity over the last 20 years or 10 years. We're just now starting to see some, but that money just keeps rolling in there. And I think justifying to the commission and to the citizenry as what the money's being used for, where it's being spent, would be a good thing for all of us. So that was basically my thing. The legal services is just another area I look at. Right now, the airport is paying an attorney to sit there in each meeting. EDA is paying an attorney to sit there in each meeting for these leases and the contracts they do. Then we turn around and it has to go to Aaron's office, and the county attorney has to sign off on it and look at everything. So basically what we're doing is the airport spends roughly $50,000, $60,000 a year on an attorney. EDA spends $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year on an attorney. Then we're paying an attorney. And my concept is, why don't we take the $60,000 from each one of those organizations, hire another county attorney, an assistant county attorney, to fill that void, and stop the 3-month-long process. So at that point, once it's been looked at, we have a county attorney that's already looked at it. By the time it gets to the county, Aaron's job is very easy because she's already had a county attorney, an assistant county attorney, look at this and got it through the process. So not so much for the airport, but the airport can pay the county for that service just like they're paying for it now. We could use that money. Of course, that would probably entail a pay increase for Aaron, and hire another attorney, save the county a bunch of money, save the airport money, EDA money, and streamline the process. So it's not such a long, it seems a little silly to have 3 sets of attorneys looking at the same document over and over and over again, especially like on these leases. They're pretty straightforward and not a lot of, it's not like a major contract. The only time you're gonna get into the more heavy is with EDA. But I think the county attorney's office has to sign off on it anyway, so why are we paying other outside attorneys to do the same job? So that was, the second thing I was looking at. And that basically goes to streamline the oversight process with the airport. Where right now, you run the airport through EDA to the county. And I really think we should look at EDA not being, quote, in charge of the airport anymore. Ultimately, the county commission has to make all the decisions. So what we do is we go from group 1, the next month we go to group 2, and then we come to the county commission. Why are we doing it that way? The airport commission was originally developed when I got here, several years after we got here, to oversee the airport for the county commission. They made the recommendations, they did everything at this point. For some reason in the past, we also added another layer of bureaucracy or another group for oversight. So we have an airport commission that's supposed to be overseeing the airport. Now we have EDA overseeing the airport commission, and the county commission overseeing EDA and the airport. So I'm not really sure why we have that second layer inserted into this, because for years it went from airport to the commission. And even now, today, the airport, the executive director, his staff show up to the county commission They pitch whatever ideas or budgets, whatever they're looking for, but they have to get that approved through EDA first. Why are we inserting that in there? So that's, streamline the process, make it more efficient. That's all it comes down to. Any comments? I mean, before I go on here, like a laundry list.
From my perspective, I'd assume you go through your list, and then I was gonna get Aaron and Tanya to talk about some of your, to get their input, and throw it up to the commissioners.
Okay. Instituting target style audits. This came from the ACCG people. When I was talking with them, the cost of doing, I don't want to use the term forensic audit, but the cost of doing in-depth audits is too excessive to do for the county government on a constant basis because it costs a lot of money. What they had brought up to me, they said, has anybody ever considered what we call targeted audits? Some counties do that, where they pick 1 or 2 departments a year, and it's random. They just pick 1 or 2 departments, do an in-depth audit on those departments to look for cost savings, where we're spending our money, those types of things. And that helps the commission understand where, what's being spent on what and that type of thing, in a little more in-depth detail. Tanya, when I got the stuff from you on their budgets, it is a massive amount of data you gave me, huge. And trying to go through that as an individual and look at it makes it extremely difficult to get a real handle on exactly what's being spent per department on what, whether it's building maintenance, personnel, those types of things. If you do a targeted audit where you have a CPA or an audit firm come in and do 1 department or 2 departments a year, they can summarize that for us and show us where our expenditures, what's going out. Because there's just no way, I don't see how anybody, I don't envy you at all with these budgets because it's massive. I think it was 300 and some pages of what you sent me, and that's just block numbers.